question is, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
Oh shit! I have no fucking clue.
Okay.
And I feel that's probably from some, I don't know, I want to say it's probably from Doctor Who or some British show or something like that.
You're not that far off. It's from it's from Monty Python.
Oh shit! Okay, I actually watched like a lot of. I think I've seen all the movies. I just haven't seen them in a decade. I really liked them when I was younger.
Yeah, they because they're so like typically British, and I was like, I don't know if because the guy who asked your question is British as well. So I was like, I don't know, because he said I can't remember. Yeah, I can't. We had a discussion of whether you get it. I was like, I don't know, but now I'm interested, because he was like, oh, it's only going to be a good question if the guy knows Monty Python. Like, I don't know. If you had no idea who Monty Python were, I could spread the word about how brilliant Monty Python is.
Monty Python is brilliant. I feel like I should probably revisit it now. I remember like getting high, laughing my ass up watching that shit like with my friends as a teen.
Yeah,
because it's just like it's kind of like that kind of humor is kind of similar to Danish humor. It's very like almost nonsensical and kind of dark at times, which is kind of the same. Also, you can that kind of like I feel like Danish humor can fall into three categories, like nonsensical, weird, dark, and then very dry, which I feel like British humor kind of the same thing.
I was just about to ask you what is Danish humor like, and how does it compare? Is it a similar kind of, like you said, quite blunt and quite like straightforward humor? Is that kind of how it is?
It can be. It's like usually it's kind of dark. That's like at least like a branch of it that I really like. There was a lot of 2000 movies, like Danish movies that made. It was so fucking good, and they were all like kind of outrageous. One of them is called like The Green Butchers. It's with half of them had Mads Mikkelsen in them, if you know the guy.
Yeah.
Before he kind of blew up internationally, he was doing all of these movies, and he would always play like these fucking weird characters. And one of them, he's playing a butcher who kills people and make them into meat because he thinks that's what people want. And turns out, all the way through after the movie, turns out he just made a really good sauce. And that was why people were buying it. So it's like this weird fucking movie about him killing people and butchering them just to find out that people didn't care what meat it was. Just like his marinade, that was good.
Oh shit! That's it's like Sweeney Todd. Yeah, Sweeney.
Yeah,
Todd.
kind of.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just super weird and like it's super dark and really really funny.
Yeah, I only know him from I know him from a few movies, but James Bond is the main. Him being he was great.
Yeah, he also played Hannibal in the Hannibal's TV show, which was really good. That's so good. It's kind of like an art house version of the original like Silence of the Lambs. It's super out there and really really beautiful.
Nice. Okay, I've not even this is rubbish. I've not even seen Silence of the Lambs.
Oh my old.
Yeah, there's so many like heavy, like I feel like every movie we've talked about so far other than Monty Python could be like a heavy metal theme, like music video, a heavy metal music video, or particularly the guy fucking chopping people up and whatever. Like, but speaking of actually the something that I was surprised to see when I was looking through your kind of Instagram and that was the videography side of things, and kind of do you feel like so for me, right, I write music and I play guitar and I'm musical, but I'm not that creative with like video or with art or anything. Like I just don't have that kind of. Maybe I'd be good at it if I tried, but I didn't. It doesn't spark that kind of interest in me. So I guess my question is, would you say you're just a creative person, full stop, with everything, or is it just like kind of videography that as music, just those two things, or do you feel like any creative kind of pursuit is interesting to you?
I think I have a proclivity towards like creative things, and I've always kind of done, like when I was a kid I loved to draw. I had a period of time where like writing like stories and stuff like that, and so I feel like I've always had like a creative outlet in some sense, and then it kind of like I've always spent a lot of time doing creative stuff. I think it's been like at one point it was like doing cartoons in MS Paint and stuff like that when I was like had my first computer and just like went crazy with that. So I always feel like I've had something. So I think I might just be a creative person in general. I definitely feel like I tend to lean towards like more like the visual stuff is where I feel like I'm best and I'm most interested, if it makes sense.
So when if you see, if you're like, say you're thinking about, okay, what does this music mean visually? How do I want to represent this music? Because if you, is it you and like there's two of you in your videography company. So did you, and you're going to have to correct me if I get any of this wrong, but did you do your own videos for your band?
Yeah.
So there's obviously two things. Is one, what was your inspiration for? I guess I'm going right back in. Immediately before we talked, I was like, I'm not going to ask you about the album, and then But more generally speaking, what do you do to kind of get inspired for videography for music? Actually, I've got one more question, but let's go with that for now because I've got another thing I'm interested.
Usually, like I try, like my method is usually trying to make a sentence into a picture, like how do we take like I'll like when we have to make a video for a band, they'll send me, I always ask for the artwork and the lyrics so I can like kind of like read the lyrics for the song, and it'll always be like a few sentences where I'm like, that one, like we need to make this sentence can translate into pictures, so we have to do that. And then like the artwork will be kind of like a guiding line for, okay, which colors are they using? Or like I'm very artistic about, I like the artwork matching the videos and everything, like, so there needs to be like a common thread that runs through everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's smart as well, though. It's like it's something that I always kind of that I always remember, like in a piece of advice that was given to me when I was in my old band, was that like listeners and like music fans like to be taken into another world when they so like for example with my old band we filmed a music video and it was high definition, it was done by a professional videographer, but I think we maybe just didn't think through the kind of, we had a little storyline behind it, and it was okay, but it didn't take you to another place, it didn't feel like another world, it did kind of feel like four of us in a band and also doing a little, it felt like we were we definitely aren't actors, so it's difficult that like but that's why, when you were talking about, okay, the colors and the lyrics and everything has to match up, it's creating that world, which is like, is that something you're conscious of creating? And this, I guess, more for your own music now, is that something you're conscious of doing, creating that kind of world, or is it something that just falls together nicely?
I think I'm very conscious about it. I have, like, even with my lyrics, I have these like both recurring themes, but also like phrasings and stuff I'll always use, like some kind of almost a Cabal Terminology kind of build. So okay, if I have to describe something, it'll have to be these adjectives because I use them in this, like, so even though it's not going to be the same song, there's going to be some stuff that if you've been listening since day one with the EP, there's going to be some stuff you'll kind of like, of phrasings you'll kind of recognize from back then that I'm going to keep on using, and like but in different ways. So it's I kind of like the whole idea. It's like almost like an Easter egg.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, carry on.
No, but it also helps creating this world where it's like, again, there's like these, like, not characters, but all these phrasings and ideas that we'll always return to. Like,
yeah. Well, when you start to kind of hear certain ideas, like all of my favorite bands, some people find it like almost annoying when they'll say to bands, like you always sound the same, after like if they'll do like 5 or 6 albums and people complain that they sound the same, but actually sometimes you need a bit of that, like, because it's a balance, isn't it? Like, trying to find that balance between doing something new, but like I mean ultimately you just want to do what you want to do, what you enjoy, but I guess being more business about it, you've got to think like fans, what do the fans want, and what how do we move forward? Are you kind of conscious of? I'd be interested to know where you're at in terms of writing music, because obviously with the new release and stuff, I don't know how busy you are with writing right now, but are you conscious of, are you thinking about how the band is going to progress in the next years in terms of how you're going to sound and what you're going to write lyrics about in the next, I don't know, 5 years or something?
Yeah, very. We already started on album 4, so I think we have like 9 songs by now. Just because we want to get like a head start, and now we have funding, so we can actually pay ourselves to take time off to write and stuff like that. And I think we're very aware that like we have to, like, I think the way we usually see it is like the EP and the first album, they kind of sound very alike, because there's like, you do an EP and you figure, okay, people kind of dig this, we need to make more of this. And once you've done that, you might not want to repeat yourself and like do the exact same album again. So we kind of like wanted to evolve the sound, but still kind of like retain the core of what we are. And I think that's how we're going to keep moving forward. There's always going to be like a core that is Cabal, like these different things, like where you can always hear it's us, and then we're going to like try to add in new elements. If you like kind of like imagine just like having the core and then stuff floating around it, like is it called a neutron or whatever? Like
like an atom.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of like picture it like that, so we can like put different things into it, but the core will always remain the same.
Yeah,
and that way we can kind of like evolve our sound by adding new and different elements, like on new albums and new songs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. Like a little sort of reaction, and there's you've got your atom, and you can sort of combine different things, but fundamental. That's a good metaphor. I like that. Maybe you should use that in a song, in a lyric.
Of course.
I have one question actually, going back. This is kind of tying it back almost to the video side of things, but it sort of ties in with bands. Obviously, are you the one that takes the creative direction in the band in terms of video, or do the band also kind of contribute?
Usually as I write the lyrics, it makes sense for me to kind of like also have like be the main guy when it comes to our visuals, but we all like collaborate. I'll come with an idea and say, hey guys, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you guys have any cool ideas? And everybody will pitch in and be like, oh, if we're doing this, we need to have something like that. And I think I've seen this that kind of like relates to.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
I would say I think that's how we kind of like run the band. Like most people will have something that they're kind of like in charge of, and then they'll present stuff, and everybody will kind of pitch in and be, oh, that's really cool. Can we try adding this? And like, we kind of like try to do it as a company, and in a workplace you will have different departments, and you can have one person doing all of it.
Yeah, it's tricky. I remember with my old band, I was kind of, because it was like my sort of brainchild, I was quite like reluctant to give up even things like emails, which I just like, I didn't hate doing them, but they're not very exciting, but I found it difficult to like give that up, and sort of it's difficult. But I was going to ask, with the videography, do you ever struggle? I'm not going to ask if you guys argue all the time, but like, do you struggle sometimes if someone has an idea and they want to run with something, but in your head you're thinking, this isn't going to work? Is that ever a conversation that happens, or do you guys get on quite well with it?
We're pretty good. I think that like at first we butt heads a bit more, but now it's like we all have fields of expertise, and my guys in the band, they if I say like, okay, that's not really gonna work, like they trust me. And the same thing, we have like Chris, who's our main, like, who writes all the instrumentals and like produces everything. So if we ask him like have an idea, it's like production wise, and he's gonna like tell us that like the idea is good, but it's not gonna work because there's this and this. There's like we know he knows what he's talking about, so like we trust him. I think we've reached a very like nice point where everybody knows that everybody within their field knows what they're doing. So if they like, we have again, like everybody has like something they're responsible for, and if that person tells like everybody else like, yeah, we can't really do this because this and that, like everybody respects it. And like,
it sounds like a very like mature place for a band to be, in terms of like how, because I think there are bands like, if you ask like, I don't know, Guns N' Roses or they don't get on, and they've been around for ages. So like it's I feel like if you can't fix that at like early-ish, does it ever get fixed? I don't know, because they obviously have their issues. But yeah, it's have you always collectively as a band, and you personally, have you always been like a good sort of people person? Have you always been good at sort of, I guess, working productively with other people? Are you quite a sort of what's the word? Good with people.
Kinda. Also, I know I'm also a fucking weird guy, so I have some weird stuff that just irks me. Like, well, like I feel like most of us are pretty like laid back, but we all have weird quirks, and like sometimes we butted heads about really dumb stuff. But we also like by now I think we're on like 7 to 6 years of playing together, so we also know when to like not push further, and like we know each other by now. And I feel like in Danish schools, there's like always a lot of like group work and stuff. When I did my college degree, there's a lot of group works. I don't always like it, but I've at least been exposed to working in groups like my entire life. So I think that kind of builds like at least some base skills with working with people.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, from doing this podcast, I've had to improve at like just talking to people, because like you're quite easy to talk to. Some people aren't, like some people are, I'm not going to say who, but some,
you need to name names now. I don't
yeah, exactly. Just name like, well, the thing is, so I've done, this is episode 49. 48?
Oh, shit.
So it's kind of new-ish, like, so I'm still like figuring it out a bit, but it's like, in terms of how I talk to people and how, but I have noticed the more I do the podcast, when I talk to people in real life, something that's really interesting is that because we have a slight delay on the microphones, and if I interrupt you or if you interrupt me, it's quite hard to communicate. It just doesn't turn out that well on the speakers. So what I've noticed is sometimes when I'm talking to people, I'm much better at waiting for them to stop, even like in person now, because I'm more used to having long conversations with people and then just going stopping. So it's weird how we kind of I don't know what my point was with that. I just thought it was interesting.
Your people skills are increasing. You're becoming a good listener. Hopefully.
So the other one, there was someone a few episodes ago said that, and I was like, oh, thank you, that's nice. So but yeah, the one thing that I always end up asking this to vocalists, but I think the good thing about these kind of topics, or this topic, is that it changes so much from one person to another. But with regards to lyrics and what you write, what are the main kind of things that you tend to enjoy writing about and like take interest in?
For me, I feel like a lot of my lyrics are like they serve as an outlet. So it's like if I'm angry, if I'm really sad, if there's like something I kind of like need to have an outlet for, just like something I need to get out of my system, I could like put the pen to the paper, and it kind of helps getting it out. So that I feel like that's kind of what our music does. Like it acts like as a form of like an outlet or catharsis for like all of this frustration and all these like feelings that might be a little bit hard, like telling people. Like so sometimes, like if you're having a nice dinner with your friends, it might not be that easy to say, hey, I thought about killing myself yesterday. I was like, that's really bad. Like
yeah, everyone just puts the knives and forks down, like, what?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't it kind of sets the mood a bit, but
exactly.
But it's important to like open up about that stuff, I think, if whether it be through lyrics or otherwise. So for you, is it a lyrics very personal to you, or do you write about other things, like other about society or stories? Some people write like more story based songs. Are your lyrics more tied to you personally?
I think my lyrics are very tied to me personally. Sometimes they'll also be like a broader subject that I'm like exploring or venting about, but it'll always be kind of bound in my like how I view the world. It's kind of like hard for it not to, because I'm writing it. I feel like the first, like for the EP and the first album, we're doing like some more of a like loose conceptual, like that we wrote about this death cult thing, but all of the stuff had like hidden meanings that were kind of like rooted in how I was feeling and like my worldviews, and but built like placed within this world where hooded people drag kids into the forest and sacrifice them. Like,
yeah, so it's a few different ideas going on, but with kind of writing about more personal things, do you ever find yourself a bit afraid to write about a certain topic because you're worried about, oh, what will this person think, or do I want to talk about this yet? Like, am I ready to, is that ever something that happens?
I think the only concern I have is like, okay, if somebody asks me about these lyrics, this is something that I really feel comfortable talking about in a possibly like public setting. And I've just like come to terms with like that if people ask, I'm just gonna be open and talk about it. Like, but some of the stuff I probably wouldn't bring up unless like probed about it.
Yeah, it's I feel like there's that weird thing where like I said this on not so long ago actually, someone else, where so I used to write the lyrics for my old band mainly. Anyway.
What was your old band called? I'm just kind of curious now.
The band was called Insurgent. We weren't that big. We didn't really get particularly big. But
check it out afterwards.
Yeah, you can have a listen. I can send you some stuff. I was a guitarist, but I also wrote the lyrics and sort of a lot of the vocal ideas as well. So what would happen is we go to the studio and like the producer was asking me about like the meaning behind some of the lyrics, and like one of the songs is kind of quite dark and like maybe not dark, but it was quite like upsetting, the idea. And all the guys in the band were like, "Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay?" Like, yes, I'm fine. It's just like, it's weird because you sometimes can end up opening up. I think when you're on your own and you put all the pen to paper, obviously no one's watching you. So then, but you forget the idea that actually everyone's going to hear this,
Yeah.
So it's weird. So do you ever work collaboratively with the band with lyrics? Do you ever kind of bounce ideas off each other, or is it very much you taking the lyrics to the band?
I write the lyrics. Like our old bass player, he wrote I think he wrote 2 songs. And then sometimes I don't really have the problem anymore. But when we started out, I was still like, I had for like a handful of years moved over to playing the bass, so I hadn't been doing vocals for a while. And I was just like, sometimes I'd be like, let's just break down. Also because our stuff was like a bit more tick nerdy back when we started out. So sometimes I'd be like, I don't know what to write here. I don't know how to fit the words on these fucking weird rhythms. So I'd have the guys help me out. But now it's more like it's become second nature to me, and I'll just show them. And just like we have usually, like, even though we have something we feel finished, we always show everybody like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Like, also just on the off chance that some of the guys is like, no, you can't write that. I won't stand for it now. Which hasn't happened yet because I don't think I'm that controversial. I'm just depressed.
Yeah, it's so has music always been, and I guess because we talked about other creative things, have they always been throughout your life? Has that been something that you've been able to rely on when in harder times in life? Is that something that you? Because weirdly, like it sounds odd, but like whenever I've been, this might almost sound like a non-musician answer, but if I'm ever upset about something, I don't know if music is the thing that maybe I rely on. I think I go to other things when I'm upset, but I know so many people, music is like the thing that helps them. Where do you kind of, what is music the thing that you kind of, or one of the things you fall back on in the harder times for you?
I think it can definitely like help, and also sometimes it can be like this feeling of, okay, I'm feeling like this guy feels sad too in the song, so I guess I'm not alone or something like that. I don't really know. I don't feel like, at least for me, besides that, maybe feeling like somebody else feels the same way. I don't feel it solves problems. I think I'm also very pragmatic about that, because I don't like saying, if I have a problem, sitting down and listening to a song might make me feel better for 5 minutes, but that's gonna solve my problem. Like,
yeah, it's a nice what's the word? Like, you're right. It helps you connect and sort of almost get through like the moment, like the now, the here and now. But yeah, I suppose longer term, you've got to find the solutions, haven't you? And I don't know. Some songs are quite inspirational, though. I mean, I listen to quite a lot of like rock, hard rock, metal. Like, I love Alter Bridge. I love, like I'm trying to think of the other sort of more examples like that, but I really love that kind of music. It's quite uplifting, quite kind of, it has like heavier riffs, but it's all kind of quite uplifting. But then equally, I love, like, obviously you'll be well aware of Fit for an Autopsy, given your...
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, bands like that every now and again, well, not every now and again, quite a lot of the time, it's just like, sometimes that's just what I'm like craving. So, I like to be able to kind of connect in that way with some more uplifting ideas sometimes. Do you kind of, with your lyrics, if you're writing about a more difficult topic, what's your approach to writing when it comes to discussing something that might be quite depressing or upsetting? Do you write, is there ever like a positive kind of spin as well, like oh, this is horrible, but, or do you sometimes just go, nah, fuck it, this is awful? Like, where do your lyrics kind of go?
I think we have like, I remember like one, like on the new album, I think we have like one kind of positively tinted song. Besides that, it's like, again, it's like, it works as my outlet for when I'm not feeling good. It's like, so kind of like purges me of those feelings by getting them out. Yeah. So I usually really don't write lyrics when I'm like feeling happy, and sometimes I'll have these periods of time where like, okay, my life is going great. It's like, I have nothing to write about, at least not in this. Like, then I do like some other random stuff as well. And like, I'll write a happy song for like a bedroom pop thing I'll never release or something like that. But at least in Cabal, I feel like it's mostly the negative things comes out, because that's kind of like, I also feel like the kind of world we build and sound we have, it, I don't know if it would work for like uplifting, you can do it kind of songs. Like,
well, like, I mean, a good example is like Walk With Me in Hell, the Lamb of God song.
Oh yeah,
that's quite that's quite, I don't want to say positive, like, but it's, the title, Walk With Me in Hell, like, it says something about like take hold of his hand kind of thing. It's quite like, in the right context, I think it can work. But yeah, you're right. Like, I know there are a lot of heavy songs where they try to be a bit too, like, like you're right. It can sound a bit kind of strange when they're too positive about it. Like, you got to it a bit.
I guess Hatebreed kind of did it pretty well. Like, they had an album called Perseverance, which is, I guess, is kind of like, but I also feel like they exist in a, like, we exist in the same world, but they're kind of like a different offshoot of the genre in some sense. Like, I don't know. It might also be just like, it's become a habit now that I write like when I don't feel good, and that's why like I've kind of connected Cabal to like my outlet for all the bad feelings.
See, so for me, I'm kind of the opposite when with writing, and maybe it's different because I start with the guitar, like, and then lyrics are kind of is a whole other headspace. But like with the guitar, if I don't feel good, I really am not very productive. I struggle to write ideas. But I guess lyrics, you can, if you feel awful, you can embrace that. Whereas I think with an instrument, if you feel awful, your concentration isn't there, and you miss things, and you can't be like imaginative with the melody. But at least with lyrics, you can, you don't need the rhythm or the melody or anything just yet. You can just kind of think, what am I thinking? Like, how do I put this into words? Where it's quite hard to go, how do I put this into like onto a guitar immediately? So I can never, for me, if it's a sunny day, not too warm, just like pleasant temperature, which is like 3 days in the whole year in the UK. If it's like that, I can sit down and write music. But if it's not, like, I can be quite like unproductive. So it's why I've rearranged my whole living room, because the window is behind you, I guess. So that when I sit here with my guitar, I've got the sunlight on me. I used to be over in that corner,
sitting in the dark, shredding.
I wouldn't say shredding.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But
that's actually a very like interesting point. I didn't really think about it but now that you mention it, I've like with the newer stuff, I'm way more involved in the instrumentals as like a co-producer with Chris as well. So I'll sit with him in the studio and going like, "Can you make the guitar say bam bam, bro?" But I've like, now that you say it, like I can do that. Like I actually do that better if I'm in a good mood, and like also because if I'm in a shitty mood, like I don't really want to go to the studio and like sit there. But that's actually like very true. That like yeah, I need to feel like, same with like doing videos and stuff like that. I need to be like, it's better when I'm happy and motivated and stuff. But for my lyrics, is always like for the low points, and if I'm angry or like.
Yeah, so you're gonna start like a punk, like a sort of pop punk band, or like sort of a really upbeat, like happy band. If you just suddenly like all of a sudden it's just you never have a bad day in your life, like, well, what do I do now? Like,
yeah, gotta make a new band. I'm gonna quit. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, I kind of I always wonder, like I said, from leaving the band recently, I kind of think like I can't tell if I want to sort of change my direction writing wise, or if I just want to write what I wrote for the old band but for me now, you know.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't know whether, because I'm a metalhead as well, like I kind of, what the stuff I write, like I said, is more like Alter Bridge, kind of the more melodic kind of Slipknot stuff, you know, the kind of those ideas. So, but I can't decide whether to go more. I don't know if I could see myself going heavier. Not that I don't like it, just I don't know if it's what I would write.
No.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm tempted by like trying more chord based stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could you see you guys at any point like mellowing out and just being a bit more like? And I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying.
No. I have a hard time picturing it. I want to like. I have like. I don't want to call it a bucket list necessarily, but I have like a bunch of things where I'm like, I want to try to write a song in this kind of vein, but with a Cabal take on it. And some of it, like, I have this idea of making like a really like big and like melancholic but very melodic song. Like, we haven't done it yet, but it's something I've had like on my songwriting wish list for a little while, because I think we could do something really interesting with that. Like, but I don't see us like doing that for like an entire album or anything like that.
Yeah, it's good to like, how many bands do you listen to? Alluvial?
Yeah, really good band.
Yeah, I absolutely love Alluvial, man. But there's a couple of songs on the album, on the latest album. Well, it was all instrumental before, but the couple of songs where Wes sings, like, there's one particularly where he sings like the whole song basically, and it's cool where like it's just a slight deviation from what their kind of core sound is, and I think the fans appreciate that, because they're like, oh, you guys do that, then you just got to whether you can do a whole album of it is a different thing. But I totally forgot to mention, so you guys play, did you correct me if I'm wrong, you guys played with Lorna Shaw across the UK, right?
Yeah.
I was at the gig in Birmingham.
Oh, really?
I was like, I'm sure I recognised the name when your band was mentioned to me. I was like, I'm sure I know it, and I kept thinking, like, where is it from? That show was so awesome, man. The whole night was just, it was. There's two shows like that I've been to recently. I went to that show, and I went to Fit for an Autopsy, actually, mentioning them, and it was one of those ones where like each band was heavy in its own kind of way, which was really cool, because like it didn't just feel, for like a non-metal listener, they'd be like, "Whoa, this is all just really heavy," but likes heavy metal. It was cool seeing and listening to and taking in the energy of these different types of heavy bands who all have their own kind of way of doing things. That was really it suddenly occurred to me like about 5 minutes before we started talking. I was like, oh, that's where it's I remember watching Lorna Shore, and like, you know, when you want something so heavy that you want to laugh, like
it is like ridiculously heavy.
Yeah, and that what's it To the Hellfire or is that it? They're the one.
That's the one with it. Hard, like.
And I remember when that came over, everyone's like, yeah, like going mad. And I remember I was literally just laughing because it's so good. Like I was just laughing, like, what is going on? This is crazy.
But I feel like I tend to do the same. I think I did exactly the same when they put that song out. It's like, what is this? It's like, it's really like, it's too much, but at the same time, it's really, really good. And it's like, it just becomes like, it's so fucking heavy that it becomes kind of funny that they just went all the way out there. And they're still pulling it off. They're doing it so well. So,
oh yeah, and it's like all the instrument. It's crazy how like, it's not just Will. It's like the whole band are really great. I chatted to Adam episode 25 or something. But I remember, like it's kind of, I remember seeing them sort of shoot up in popularity, and it's crazy how. You know, you kind of think, when you think of like popularity of bands, you think like the ones, you know, the more hard rock kind of softer metal ones, you think automatically, well, they're the more accessible ones, so they'll be more successful. But then bands like Lorna Shore are just like, and Spirit Box, well, Spirit Box are more on the melody side.
Yeah, I would say that, like, to me, like, I'm so happy it happened to Lorna Shore because like they deserve it and they're great guys. But like with Spirit Box, I was like, okay, it makes sense. They were like, the two main members were in Iris the Bear One, so they were always already very connected into the scene and been playing for many years. And their songs are very like what's it called? Almost like structured as a pop song. So it's like, it's fairly easy to get into. You will have like clean choruses and stuff like that. Not that it's taking anything away from him, because like that's, writing pop music as well takes a lot of skill. Like people tend, especially in like this metal world, kind of like tend to ignore that. But that Lorna is kind of like, they were doing kind of like everything that I would normally say that you shouldn't do if you want to break out big. Like they're doing 6-minute songs with like, there's repetition in it, but it's not like clear choruses and stuff like that. And there's like, it's kind of like progressive. There's so much going on. It's so extreme. And then they ended up blowing up. I feel like they're kind of an outlier, but it's so cool to see that like you can do something that might also be what actually like helped propel it, was that it's so different from a lot of other stuff, like, or at least like the stuff that usually gets popular.
Yeah, I feel like even like a non-metal fan could probably hear like someone like Lorna Shore and be like, oh, that's kind of different, you know.
Yeah.
They hate it, you know, even if they just absolutely hate that. But yeah, kind of talking of that, how does because like all of the sort of Scandinavian countries are so well known for heavy metal, like I think I remember seeing something that like the average like metalhead population is so much higher than in like, I don't know, the US or something. How did you find, like, so obviously I'm from the UK, how did you find the shows and like the general reception sort of compared to back home?
In the UK?
Yeah.
It was really good.
It was good.
It was really, really good. Like, it was like every show on the tour was sold out, and it was like our first tour over there. We've actually like been, like, the thing is, like in Denmark for a while, like the metal scene, like especially for like modern metal, like core bands, was kind of bad. Like nothing was really happening. No one's really putting on shows. It's like most like the traditional stuff that we do really well, like death metal and stuff like that. It's like kind of like the tried and true was kind of like just what everybody was listening to, and the bands who would like had any name in Denmark was kind of like doing that. So the shows were like, for the most part, way better than they are like when we came over. But it's also like worth noting that Denmark is like, there's like fewer people living in Denmark than in London. So it is quite small. So obviously like there's like what's it called, like subgenres and stuff like that, and the scene for that will automatically be very small. Like,
so because obviously, like for example, even just things like writing like lyrics and stuff, having to, because your lyrics in English, right?
Yeah, most of them. I'll sometimes sneak in some Danish stuff just because some words in Danish sound really like very cool.
Because I know Tatiana from Ginger writes some songs in Ukrainian, like mainly in English, but then also does some songs in Ukrainian. So is that because your English is very good? I don't know. I don't want to sound all condescending and
no, it's fine. It's fine.
Like you're like, it's better than a lot of English people I know, that's for sure. But do you ever kind of think like, oh, how do I say this in the exact way? Do you ever get stuck for little phrases, or find yourself like sort of trying to look up with Google Translate or anything like that to try and figure out the perfect way to say something?
I like looking up like word plays and stuff like that to see if there's something I can pull. But I honestly feel like my vocabulary is better in English, or at least I'm more aware, because it's not my native tongue. So I'm more, every time I'm speaking it or writing it, I think I'll approach it more analytical, because I feel like my brain is more activated when doing it. Whereas in Danish, it's just something that's so natural, like that I don't really think about how I say it on the, like, does it make sense, or am I rambling?
No, that makes sense. Yeah. The because there's a bit of a joke amongst like or any English speaking country that like English people particularly just never learn other languages. Like, we're so bad. I can speak a bit of French, like a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I guess we just kind of assume everywhere else is going to learn English really well. And like like I said, I know a bit of, I can understand some written like Spanish and Italian just because it's similar to French, but like I can't speak it. I can say ciao. No. I'm going to Venice in about a couple of weeks, and I can say ciao, and that's a bit about it. Arrivederci. That's it.
Arrivederci.
Yeah, that's all I know. That's all I know in Italian. But yeah, like, so kind of go.
All you need to know is how to. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go on.
I just want to say, you just need to learn how to say "don't speak the language," and I feel like I can say that in quite a few languages by now.
It's a touring life. You need to, you have to learn how to say "I can't talk to you."
Yeah, exactly.
But so kind of going back to the sort of like having music as that thing that can sort of support you, I guess, and do you feel like there's a sort of personality that comes along with the really heavy music? Like, do you think there's sort of like a personality type in terms of people that you've met and interacted with in terms of who likes heavy, like really heavy music? Because my experience is a lot of the time, not all of the time, but people do seem quite open-minded, because I think you have to be, because like, when you're a kid, it's not like many parents are showing their kids like, sure, you probably shouldn't. So, it's something you have to kind of learn to like, So I always think there's a sense of open-mindedness, but then you hear some metal fans are so like closed-minded about things. So maybe that's not totally true, but do you feel like there's maybe a certain personality that comes along with the super heavy, heavy music?
Yeah, I feel like at least like with the people I know who play it, I usually like somewhat people who maybe like would consider kind of weird and outsider-ish, which also means that like a lot of them are really nice and open because they know what it feels to like feel like you're not fitting in. So that's like been my experience. Most of them we've met like been really nice and open also, again, because I think we also like are very aware that we're all doing this weird thing. We're playing the like just tuning our guitars as low as possible and chucking, and just some guy screaming over it, and like so like if you look at it objectively, it is kind of funny and weird, and I think everybody kind of like appreciates the fact it's like that, and that also that people also tend to not take it that seriously, and they like, even though it's serious art, people feel like if you want to do this like for real, you also need to be kind of like aware that it's not silly, but it kind of is at the same time.
Yeah, I was talking to Dean Lamb from Archspire, and he was saying that, like, because I said to him, like, he's quite funny, and he if you watch him on YouTube, or like if you just speak to him, he's got quite a good sense of humor. And I was saying, is that something you kind of do on purpose? Is that part? Yeah, I wasn't calling it like an act, but I was saying, is that something you think about? And he's like, yeah, well, like the music we play is so ridiculous that like you can't be too serious. Yeah, and I thought that was so great because yeah, like why take things so seriously? You know, like when you think about like fucking shouting down the microphone and heavy music, and it's you can understand. There's more sense in like dance music, you know, because it's just and it sounds pleasant, and but heavy metal, man.
Yeah,
it about.
it's weird, but it's also the best thing in the fucking world. Like so.
Yeah, it's interesting that the whole thing with Master of Puppets and Stranger Things has become very popular. And
it's good in my opinion. Like
yeah, so I think it's a good thing, but there are some people who I heard people saying like I guess I kind of understood this where some people would say like, oh well, so you like Metallica now? Well, remember when you bullied us for liking heavy metal, and I kind of think that's such a like antagonistic and just unnecessarily unwelcoming way of talking to people. You might be right, like maybe that person shouldn't have bullied that metalhead guy or girl,
but how do you know that people even bullied people for listening to it? Maybe it just wasn't aware it was there. I feel like the whole trying to gatekeep things is also like why rock and metal might not be doing the hottest it's ever been, because but also for me it's like it's contradictory in the sense that like this was supposed to be a reaction and also like something new that dared to do something else and like didn't really care about like conventions and conformity, and now all of a sudden it's become this thing like, no, you have to like listen to it the right way, you can't do this and you can't do that. It's like it's this thing that should be like a rebel that's supposed to be very rebellious has become so conservative, and I fucking hate it. Like that's one of my main gripes with like metal, like with Gatekeeping, that needs to fuck off and die. I'm getting heated talking about it.
I should have asked you this at the beginning of the podcast. Like, you sleep so well afterwards, just like totally worn out from just like getting angry about it. Yeah,
shouting. No, but I really don't like gatekeeping. I think it's so dumb. It's counterproductive. It's really hurting more than it's helping anything. And so what if some kid like got into metal by watching Stranger Things? That's a good thing. Like, don't you want, like, if you have a cool thing, don't you want to share it with other people? Like,
yeah, there's a thing that I found personally quite challenging when it comes to dealing with people, which is and it ties in with the gatekeeping and that you have to do things this and this way. It's when I've had this with a few people where I will be unhappy with something they've done or something they've said, and I'll say that. I mean, I'm not going to starting arguments for fun, but like, if you disagree with something and they say something along the lines of like, oh, you don't understand my life, so you can't comment, you can't be annoyed at me because you don't know what my life is like. And it almost feels like a similar kind of thing to that, where it's like, just because I don't live your life doesn't mean I can't understand it and like appreciate
this
perspective. And it's a bit of a different kind of thing, but similar with I feel like there's a lot of people out there that feel like you have to kind of experience 5 or 10 years worth of something before you're even allowed to have an opinion on it. And it's like I find it so frustrating. Like I said, I can think people come to mind when I think of like having disagreements and they say something along the lines of, oh, well, you don't understand what it's like to be me. And I'm like, no, I don't. That's true. But no, you don't understand what it's like to be me. So
exactly.
explain that anyway. And like, what? So what? Am I gonna? What's the plan here? Like, how do we fix this? You can't just keep saying that. You can't just live your life like that. And I think it's the same with metal, with the gatekeeping, where there's this sort of, you have to, like, the joke about name 3 bands on the show.
Yeah.
It's like, what, like, what if you like the shirt? I don't, you're supporting the band. So if you buy a band shirt, it's like, Kim, was it one of the Kardashians? I don't think it's like Kendall Jenner or someone had a Slayer shirt, and everyone was like, "Oh, you don't like Slayer?" It's like, so what?
But the thing is, like, now a thing that, like, the way I see it is, like, I really want this thing that I'm a part of to prosper. If, like, I wouldn't be sad if, like, metal became the biggest genre in the world. It's never going to be, but, like, some people act like it's a bad thing, and I can kind of, like, relate to some of the stuff that, like, some of it were for, like, as I talked about, for us who, like, never felt like we fit in and stuff like that. So it's like kind of like our place of refuge. Like, we could come there because we were different, and, like, maybe we weren't as, like, accepted. So we had this thing, and now everybody's, like, becoming a part of it, which I can kind of relate to that. But at the same thing, if everybody was a part of it from the beginning, you probably wouldn't have felt that outside. You wouldn't, like.
Yeah.
So I just think it's dumb to try to keep, like, again, gatekeeping is just so fucking dumb, and, like, it does the opposite of what I kind of want.
Yeah, I think as long as people come in with an open mind and as long as they just appreciate, like, appreciate it, I just think, like, who cares? I don't mind who likes. I understand the frustration that people have where they think, this is my, like, this is where I go to, and this is the thing. It's part of an identity for people, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they don't like it when a bit of their identity becomes diluted and it becomes mainstream, because then your identity suddenly, I feel like if you don't have a strong sense of identity within yourself, if your identity relies on, I'm a metalhead, I'm a, I love alternative, I don't know, fashion or something like that, if you tie your identity to all these things, then if they get taken away, you're a bit stuck. Like, you're just kind of like, oh, well, what am I? Like,
but the thing is, they won't be taken away. They would just be appreciated by more people. Like, I feel like also the other thing, like, the whole, like, that's my thing, is also super entitled. It's like, the world doesn't really revolve around you, buddy. Like, other people like stuff too. Like, maybe, like, climb down for your high horse and join the fun or something like that.
Do you reckon gatekeeping can make its way into any lyrical concepts and songs?
Actually, like, for the new stuff, I have some like loose lines and stuff like that. I'm kind of like, it might be something that I've been, like, super annoyed with. Like, I just see so much of it. I don't think we've been hit with it very hard. Like, people, like, middle community has been pretty accepting of us. But just in general, I really dislike it, and it pisses me off every time I see it. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose, yeah. I understand. Like I said, I get the frustration, but I do think it's silly. Like, I think it's just welcome everyone in and see what happens, I guess. I feel like there's also so many, like, metal heads who are, like, so busy talking about how it's, like, inclusive, everybody is welcome, but they don't keep that energy when it's some normie who found the show, like, who found Metallica through Stranger Things. Yeah. And also, don't gatekeep Metallica. Metallica is the biggest band in the world. Like, what are you, like? They're not like. Yeah, so many people like Metallica, even if they don't know who Metallica are.
I think, I don't know if they are arguably the biggest band in the world. I think they've played the biggest show ever in the world, like 1.6 million people. And I don't think nobody has, like, ever sold as many records as they have and stuff like that. So it's like, it's the world's worst kept secret then, like.
Yeah, I think they, like, people, it's popular to hate on Metallica, isn't it? But, like, I don't get it. I think they're awesome. I think they're just really good. And fine, like, maybe their later albums aren't as good, but what do you expect? And, like, in my opinion, they wrote the first 5. Obviously, everyone loves the first 4. People with the Black Album are a bit like, some gatekeepers are like, that's not Metallica. And then I think they wrote 2 more. I think Load and Reload were pretty good. They weren't perfect, but I think they had good songs on them. Then beyond that, I kind of lose interest. But I mean, 7 albums, like, if you even if you're like a bit liberal and you're like, yeah, 7, we'll call it 7 albums, that good albums. Like that's a lot of good albums.
It is.
And even if there's only one good song on the other on per album for the next 7, that's still pretty good. Like, you know,
still like pretty damn good. I'm a contrarian, so I kind of almost only like Ride the Lightning, which is really, really good.
Yeah,
I have a huge respect for that band because, like, obviously they've like helped like just shape the way that the music industry works and everything around it. Like they're like titans within the industry. So I'm very like respectful, but I'm not like a huge fan, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's just about having that respect, I guess, isn't it? Like just appreciating where you've come from, I guess, because like every metal band ever is probably can be tied back to metal. Obviously, every metal band can go to Black Sabbath, but like Hypocrisy is so, you know, like so ubiquitous and just so ever present in metal in the way it sounds nowadays. Like you can't hate them that much. So
no, and if you do, you're just a contrarian, I feel like.
so you
but I also kind of am like, but I'm very aware that I am. So
I remember hearing the actual song Ride the Lightning.
Yeah,
oh, that's cool. You know, like that riff, that first riff when it comes in. I don't even know if I like the whole of the rest of that song so much. I just love the riff and Creeping Death as well.
I was just about to say Creeping Death is so good. I actually saw Metallica at Copenhagen this year, this big Danish metal festival. And they played Ride the Lightning, Ride the Lightning, Creeping Death as the 3rd or 4th song. I was like, oh shit, perfect! That's so cool. Now I can leave early. So,
yeah, I
just wanted to hear that once.
Yeah, what was it? There was I saw Metallica a few years. I think it's probably about 4 years ago or something, which feels weird. There was one song they didn't play that I really wanted them to play, and I can't remember what it is now. I guess it wasn't that important.
That's the worst feeling. Like when you're standing there for the entire show.
The worst one. The worst one for me was I love Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the song I love the song Wet Sand. I think that's a really great song, but it's not like the most popular. It's just it's popular sort of. It's like in the middle somewhere. So obviously I went to Reading Festival in the UK, and there's also Leeds Festival, which is the exact same festival, but they just do it on different days. So the same artist will then go and play Leeds Festival, or like most of them anyway. It's quite cool. So, you know, the headliner for Reading on a Friday will headline Saturday on Leeds, you know. Chili Peppers played like so many good songs. They didn't play Wet Sand at Reading. Then the next day they played it in Leeds. I'm like,
feeling cheated.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's the same festival. They just put one different song in. Like, oh, come on.
And it's the one song you wanted to hear.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I think we covered some cool stuff, and I think it's a good insight, hopefully, into you. You know, especially talking about lyrics and stuff. It's interesting. I always find that interesting, and I hope other people do as well.
Me too.
It's a good, like you said, especially as you said, you write a lot of stuff from your personal perspective. So. Hopefully that was a good insight for people to get to know you a bit, and anyone that already knows you can know you a bit better. I don't know, or maybe not. Maybe they already know all this stuff.
I think people who know me kind of know most of this stuff.
Yeah, that's all good. Well, spread the word, you know. So if you're happy, I need you to ask a question for the next guest. Who I'll be speaking to. I don't know who my next guest. I'm not going to tell you who they are either way.
Okay, I'm just gonna. I just rewatched Scream a few weeks ago, so I'm gonna use that question. What's your favorite scary movie?
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's because I love horror movies. So
I love. I know this doesn't count, but I love Scary Movie.
Like a great fucking spoof as well.
Yeah, the amount, I think the first 3 are really funny, and the fact they managed to get 3 whole movies of just dumb spoof jokes into 3 movies.
But there's so many tropes you can pull from in horror, and I think they managed that so well, especially the first few ones.
Yeah, I watched The Ring not so long ago, and I found that quite scary. I thought that was good. A lot of I find a lot of horror. I'm not a big horror fan, but I thought that was quite good because I felt like the story, I didn't know where it was going to go, you know.
Yeah.
It's quite unpredictable. Like the ending, I won't spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it, but I thought the ending was really clever. I thought it was going to turn out one way, and it obviously didn't. I don't want to spoil anything.
But I really love that when they kind of like subvert your like expectations. When you think, one thing I like, because I'm like a huge horror buff. So I've seen so many horror movies, and sometimes like you'll stumble upon like these movies who are like, they know what they are, and they know like the kind of person who like that will watch the movies, probably like a big horror fan. So they're gonna like purposefully mislead you and like do what you like. Sometimes it's been like you expecting there to be a twist, because there's always a twist in the end, and there's just no twist, and that's the twist, and it's like, what?
Yeah, it's clever. I always I hate jump scares. I hate I just don't think it's like clever. I'm just like, I know it's gonna happen because it's all quiet and the music's like building. I know it's gonna be a jump scare. I just don't know when. I don't know what it's gonna be, and I'm just like, this isn't doing it for me. Like, yeah.
But that's also like a very like lowbrow like way to do horror. It's like, okay, I can make like have something jump into the screen and like make a like noise, and like obviously people are gonna get shocked, but it's not how you make great horror. Like,
yeah. Maybe if you could, if your band could be the theme song to any one horror movie, what would it be?
Probably Midsummer by Andreas. Because like all the visuals, a lot of them are very inspired by the Midsummer movie.
Nice. That's a good. Yeah. I don't know it. So
you need to watch. There's two movies you need to watch. Then it's by the same guy, a guy called Arias. It's called one of them is called Hereditary. It's probably
I have seen that.
Yeah, it's so good. Did you like it?
I like it. I thought it was rubbish.
Oh really?
I just didn't like it. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was that good.
I thought it was so good. It's like the one movie in my entire life I went to the movies twice to see.
I just thought the girl was really annoying.
A little bit.
She's just so annoying.
But luckily she dies. So
spoiler.
Oh well.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of I guess that wasn't so predictable, to be fair. I didn't know that was going to happen. But
the thing for me, like spoiler warning, is that I kept thinking there would be a twist. I kept thinking like at some point we're going to find out that the mom is actually mentally ill. Also because of the title is Hereditary, and like mental illness can be hereditary. And I was just like making all of these connections. Like, okay, there's going to be a twist, and we find out there's nothing supernatural. It's been going on in her head. She's been going crazy. And you're just like, oh no, it's just demon possession. You find that like all these things that I thought were kind of like misleading us just wasn't. And like that fucked me up. Like, because I thought I figured it out now. I know what's going to happen. And nope.
Yeah. I was impressed with myself. I figured out. Have you seen Shutter Island?
Yeah.
No spoilers for that, because that is a really good movie.
But
I figured that out. I think in about 10 minutes. I was like, I think I know what this is.
Yeah.
I was really proud of myself. I got the right idea. I didn't get it quite perfect because it's quite a specific end.
Yeah.
But I had the idea, which I was quite impressed. I was happy with myself for that.
Yes.
I know exactly. Small victory. That's such a good. I love that movie.
It's really good.
I also need you to promote an artist or just like a music person or someone in the music industry that you think deserves some love.
I'm gonna go with a British band that we just played. We played something called Radar Festival in somewhere south of London. I want to say South London, but I know it's not. It's another city.
Guildford.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I used to live near there.
It's a really good festival, and shout out for the guys putting that on. It was really, really good. We had a blast, but there was like a band who played like in the afternoon on the same stage as us, called Forager, who did it's kind of like this weird combination of kind of hardcore punk and grunge and a little bit of metalcore. And they put on a killer show. There's like the guy, like the vocalist, just out in the crowd the entire show, like sliding down the stairs, down like in the boiler room and stuff like that. And me and one of the guitarists just walked, like every time we go to play festival stuff, we just like checking out some music as well, just like seeing, just you might get surprised and find a new cool band. And we did that day, and we were like so blown back by them. I think like they aren't very big at all, but I think if they keep going, they'll probably go somewhere because they're doing really good.
Nice. It's so funny that you mentioned the Boiler Room, because the guy that I spoke to this morning, we discussed the Boiler Room, and in 48 or 49 episodes, whatever this is, I've never mentioned the Boiler Room before. And then today it comes up twice in
yeah, that's it's a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah, it is a bit. Yeah. So yeah, nice one, man. Well, thank you. And if you have any things you want to promote or share before we finish up, then go ahead.
Yeah, like I don't know when this is out, but if our new album is out when this is out, you should probably go check it out.
It will be. I think it will be.
Yeah. Then you should go check out our new album. Nice.
That's a good one. I always sometimes I kind of know what you're going to promote, and so I'm always just like, is there anything you want to
Or we're also doing the Never Say Die tour with Suicide, Silence, After the Burial, Currents, Spite, Invent, Animate, and Boundaries, and we're coming by the UK as well, and we're doing that all of November almost.
Oh, nice. Where are you playing? Are you playing in Birmingham?
Yes, we are. We are playing. I'm just gonna.
I'll have a look on my.
Pull it up.
I can't type. Apparently.
I hope it's not one of the O2s, because I don't like paying for selling my merch.
Do the O2 make you pay?
And it's like, yeah, on the Lorna run.
That's a good venue.
Oh, nice.
9th of
we
November.
We played with Lorna Show. We played the O2 something.
The Institute.
Yeah, exactly. And they made us.
Same reason I know. Yeah. Is it? Yeah, Impericon Never Say Die tour. After the Burial, 9th of November. The Mill. I should be able to go to that.
Yeah, come give us a message a few days before, we add you to the get list.
Nice one. Thank you, man. That's awesome.
And we'll have a beer. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to that. That would be great. Cool. Okay. So, well, thank you for chatting. Hopefully, that's a cool insight into you, and a cool way to sort of share some things with the world. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.